Well, once again, in this offseason, we have a very special edition of the FlamesTV podcast. We had Craig Conroy on just a couple of weeks back, and one of his first big moves as general manager of the Calgary Flames is to hire this man in front of us, Ryan Huska, the new head coach of the Calgary Flames. First of all, congratulations. Obviously, hugely exciting for everyone here too, and for you and your family. Maybe just first, to be named the head coach of an NHL team, but one that you've spent a lot of time within this organization. What does it mean?
Yeah, a lot. This is one of the prouder days of my life, to be honest with you. I'm over the moon excited about this opportunity and the honor, I guess, of being the head coach of this team. So I feel like I've been lucky coming the way into this position as I have, making the steps along the way, earning the trust of the people that I work for and with, and that's something that's important to me, and it just makes me that much more excited to get started and ready to get going. As I mentioned in that press conference, we have a real good group of people here, and we have really good hockey players. So getting a chance to work with them on a daily basis is going to be a lot of fun.
So we were just joking about this a little bit off camera, but some reports coming out late last week when you may or may not have found out, so you had to sort of keep it quiet with you and the family over the last few days. What was that like?
And I know Connie had a long weekend, so his was even worse than
right.
mine.
Yeah,
so
the Monday too.
And once I understood, the texts and the phone start going off, and then you're ignoring people, and then you feel bad. Like, Jesus, should I really? I got to respond somehow, and then I would leave it be. My aunts, I feel bad for my aunts and uncles because.
Have you touched base?
No,
yeah, you got to check in.
That's going to be later, so I'm going to have to. I'll be busy tonight returning some texts and returning phone calls to some people that really matter. Nice.
When you talked about the process of working through the organization and feeling like you're prepared, how much more ready do you feel for this opportunity now, given the journey? And obviously, and by all accounts, everything that Craig described, it sounded like you were ready for that interview for quite some time too.
Yeah, I am ready, and it's because of the experience that I've had. And I often think back, and it's something that Brad Treleving told me way back when. He's like, if you come before you're ready, the league will eat you up and spit you out. And as a young guy, you're like, yeah, I can get there, no problem. It's not going to affect me. But when you get here and you realize the demands that are on your coaching staff, the demands that are on the management side of things, the demands in particular that are on the players on a daily basis, what those guys face and what they go through. If you haven't had a chance to be around that, you don't really understand it. So the opportunity that I've had to work with this team for the last 5 years up here, and also the 4 years with all their prospects and really getting an idea of how they want to run things around here has been invaluable for me. And I feel like it really has put me in a position to feel 100% confident that I'm ready for this challenge.
Right. I know you can never really roadmap your path in the National Hockey League above all else, but I'm sort of curious, did you ever picture it happening this way, to get moving up through the same organization and finally get your first job in a franchise that you've been a part of for the last few years?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, because it doesn't often happen the way it is happening for me. I knew because of my track record, and I joke with people all the time, one of the questions in my interview, and I'll share it, was about my lack of never being an NHL player. And I stopped and I said, whoa, I was an NHL player.
Hold on.
But in all reality, I didn't have that career, and I knew I would have to go through a lot of steps to get to where I wanted to be, and I was ready for that, and I had a plan, and I had a roadmap for how I was going to get there. And that started with even coaching single A Bantam hockey back in Kelowna, my first year that I quit playing, and then it progressed through my time in Kelowna in the Western Hockey League, and the great organization that Bruce Hamilton runs there, into the American League. And then you get to that point and you're thinking, okay, well, maybe I'm going to get an opportunity to move somewhere else eventually and get the next experience that I needed as an assistant coach. And I was fortunate enough that it happened to be here. And then it's the same thing. Now I know I have to really learn the game and buckle down and make sure I get a better understanding of everything NHL hockey. And then maybe I'll get that opportunity down the road to interview and get on with another team. And for it to work out the way it has, it's something that is really exciting for me and my family.
But no one will take away that one game though either, right? Oh, that's always.
And my kids give it to me all the time. But that's full right. Circle. And I told, again, it's the things, and when I was sitting downstairs today waiting, and you start thinking of all the different things, and the small steps that you make along the way and the people that are important to you and who's helped you get to this level. Well, my time in Chicago, Bob Murray was the general manager there, and Bob's now part of our pro scouting team, and he's a really good hockey mind, and he sees the game really well, and he evaluates talent really well. And if he was here today, they had him on Zoom. I didn't know that I was going to make a comment to their group about he's a poor judge of talent because he never gave me that opportunity. In reality, he's a very good judge of talent, and he saw that I wasn't an NHL caliber player, which, as a player, too. And I knew I wasn't good enough to play, but what he did was bring me up to give me the one game. And I feel like that's a step along the way that has led me to this. So, and now you come full circle where he's working with the team that I'm working with again. So sometimes things happen in a weird way, and I feel like they present you with opportunities, and then it's what you do with those opportunities. You have to make sure that you give it your very best each and every day to give yourself the greatest chance to succeed and be able to be in this role and position for a long period of time.
Well, it's such a small world, how you just described that. Yeah. But I also kind of wonder, as you talked about, that opportunity. When did the coaching side of it become a pursuit that you wanted to make, or to that journey to begin, or when did it click in that it was a possibility, to take this path as opposed to the playing side?
Yeah, the first time I actually really thought about it, I was playing in Lowell, and Steve Sterling was one of our assistant coaches at the time, and he mentioned to me that, hey, have you ever thought about maybe playing? And at first I took it like, what are you talking about? Or coaching. And I said, what are you talking about? I'm going to play forever here. Yeah. But it started to get the wheels going a little bit. And then when I realized, hey, I made a deal with my dad too, that if I was still 25 and in the minors, I would hang him up and go back to school. So I held my end of the bargain up with him, went back to school, and then I got asked to help the Kelowna Rockets on a part-time basis, and I got sucked back into it. So then, that passion comes back. I think the competitive nature comes back to you pretty quickly. And then I started to realize that this is something that I really want to do. And then you dive right into it. And then you're 20 plus years later of coaching. When I was planning on becoming a financial advisor, life has a weird way of coming full circle.
Yeah, no question.
It's interesting because I think at the end of the day, coaching is essentially a synonym for leadership or leaders.
Yeah.
Was that sort of part of your style as a player as well? Did you sort of take that upon yourself with your teammates?
I would say I did. And I really tried to follow what the coaches were asking, and I would push our teammates or our players to do the same thing. So if the work is important, I worked, and I made sure that other guys were going to do the same thing. And I was fortunate enough to, at a young age, play with some really good players, and I felt like I was a big part of helping them along. Whether or not they would ever say that, I kind of felt it, maybe because I wasn't nearly as good as them, but I felt like I had an obligation to make sure I did things the right way. And that's something that stayed with me all along.
Yeah. And part of that process, obviously, as you talked about, you play with some great players. You've been alongside a lot of different players. You talked about this briefly in the presser too, but just how much your, I guess, what you want to be as a head coach can be carved out through, interactions and opportunities to work with so many different people. I'm not going to put you on the spot in terms of specifics, but just, how does that, piece here, piece there, and how does that kind of develop over the years of who you want to be now as a head guy?
Well, you have your own way of doing things, and that's something that I think is the most important thing, that you don't ever change and try to become someone that you're not, based on maybe who you've coached with before, whether they've had success or they haven't had success. So you have to be who you are, and you have an idea of how you want your team to play. You use the experiences that you gain by working with people and try to make your game better. We want to call it stealing or tweaking, whatever it may be. My time with Bill Peters here, Bill was off the charts good with the transition side of the game. So I made notes and I listened, and I made that part of my book. Jeff came in, and these are just a couple examples. Jeff thought the game differently in regards to offense and play with and without the puck. So he had some ideas that were a little bit ahead of when he was thinking of them, because a lot of teams are doing them now.
Right.
And then Daryl, like the experience you gain in working underneath someone like Daryl, who's a Stanley Cup winning coach, one of the most winning coaches of all time. And you see the way he prepares his teams to play. I feel very fortunate that I've had time to be around these people, and I feel like it's made my book bigger and better.
Kind of on that note, I think we were, just listening to you in the press conference, talking a little bit about stylistically what we might expect from the team next year. Obviously, it's no secret, past couple of years, this Flames team has been an elite shot volume team. You mentioned that maybe you need a little bit more from some of that. Is that a wholesale change you're looking to make in terms of getting your offensive players to another level? Or is it kind of what you alluded to on the defensive side, little tweaks here and there to help?
Yeah, they're little tweaks. I mean, when you look at the shot volume and zone time that we worked on a lot over the last number of years, that's what wins. Now it's our job to find a way to create better quality chances, the same way as I'm saying we have to give up less quality chances on the other end of the ice. So we have to tweak things a touch to make sure that we're more committed to getting inside on the offense, making the connection between our forwards and D that much stronger. So our D-men have the trust and the ability to be more active and move around to create tougher coverage for teams to be able to play against us. And I think by us being able to do that, we're going to get a few more grade A chances. But the shot volume and zone time in particular, is hugely important because you can wear teams down. And if you're always having the puck and making them have to try to defend you for most of the night, makes it difficult on them. So that's something that's still going to be there. It's just a matter of tweaking and finding a way to get a few more dangerous looks for our team as well.
Those second and third type of chances
for
off.
Sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And there's some shifts, like when you're putting packages together for interviews and you go back and look at our team in situations where we've done something really well. There's a few clips where I'm watching and I would watch them over and over and over again. Like, wow, we are really good in this clip. Like the game we played against Boston last year, we did a lot of great things offensively. We didn't have the finish that we needed that night, but we had the zone time that we wanted. We had the shot volume that we wanted, and the quality of chances were good. Now it's a matter of us making sure that we're focusing on finishing. So if we can create those opportunities, the skill level that we have on our team, they're going to score when we put them in those positions to succeed. So that's our job as a staff when we get everybody together and we get our coaching staff finalized here. That's our job, is to make sure we put them in positions to succeed.
I know you mentioned that that's one of your first priorities and utmost priorities is this filling out the rest of your bench. Just specifically on staff, and I know just behind the scenes there was, behind the row of cameras, members of our staff there as well in terms of Ken Kabelka and Mike Goodmanson and a few others there. I know staff extends. How important though is that staff, whether it be the coaches, but it extends past the bench as well. I know because it's deeper than that. But just how much that goes into success is having the right people around you in the right positions.
Yeah, and those people I often find are the most important people because they are the ones that create the environment. They have the closest connection or contact with the players. Like our equipment guys, they have a very different relationship with the players. Right. So they hear things a lot of times that we won't hear because they trust them a little bit on a different level. The trainers that we do have on the medical side, same thing for them. You look in their room, there's people in there all the time. So there's a different relationship that those guys have. I think the challenge is getting everybody to make sure that we are all connected, because when your players see that your coaching staff, your equipment guys, your trainers, your strength guys are all on the same page and they work really well together, well, there's your example that you need in regards to what you have to do as a team as well. Yeah. So it's so important. Those guys that we have are all good people and they're very good at their jobs, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to work with them moving forward.
It's interesting to me, you're talking about relationships and obviously keeping it continuity within a present season, making sure that everybody's on the same page. Yeah. So I'm curious, going from an assistant coaching role with this team to a head coaching role, does it change the way you approach your personal relationships with players, or is it the philosophy that got you here that's going to continue moving forward?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, I'm not going to change who I am. I think my role in regards to how I meet with the players and how I connect with them, that'll change because I will have more time in front of them at times. So, of course, that's going to be a little different than in the past. The way I work with our current staff members, I'll be in front of them more often, but it's not going to change how I work with them. There's the old golden rule where you treat people the right way, good things are going to happen, and I believe in that. So, the important thing is to make sure that everybody knows that they're valued and they contribute something that's going to allow our team to win. And when you have that, man, it's powerful. your team all of a sudden becomes something that starts to play for each other. You know what I mean? So the guy next to you, all of a sudden, it doesn't really matter so much about me. I got to do my job because this guy, he needs me to do that. And that, to me, is what it's all about. And that's how you create teams. And there was a question in the presser about, do you watch the games? Yeah. And a lot of times that's what it's about. You see the two teams that are there at the end, they are a team in every sense of the word. They find a way to come together, and all of a sudden, who gets credit for things doesn't matter anymore. And I want to get to that point with our team here.
You've seen those. You've been part of those championship teams, player, coach. Is that something that's synonymous? I know every personnel is going to be different on those championship teams, but is that one of those characteristics that would be found in winning teams?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I go back to, there was a game here we played against Tampa this past year, and we got up on them, and they flipped a switch where they all became nasty and hard to play against, and they started, standing up for each other. And again, when I listen and I watch a lot, into the notebook. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's it. So when you have an idea of how you have to play to be successful every night, you have to have bite to what you're doing. There has to be an edge to your game, and you have to make sure that you're playing hard for the guy that's next to you. And when you see teams like that were 3 trips in a row to the Stanley Cup final and winning 2 of them, you take note. And it wasn't just their guys that you expect to play that way. It was skilled players, where there's a different level that they're playing at, and that's something that we have to push this team to. And then once you get them there, you got to hold them to that standard, and that's how you build something that's continuous, and you can see it over and over and over again, where you're starting to get the results that you want to see.
Yeah. Was that a teachable moment in game for some of the players, or is it something that maybe you introduce in film afterward, and as a coach really try to hammer home and say, this is the template?
Yeah, I would say 95% of the players would recognize it. Like, they're smart guys, so they will see what another team is doing. Like, whoa, they've changed the way this game's being played. And then it's up to us to kind of reinforce, like, this is something that we're going to do. So there are situations like that, but you find a way to make your team tighter and better. And if you can use examples along the way, I think that's an important thing to do. Catch them doing it right is important to do. So when we see our team doing something, we do a lot of video with players. You have to make it such that, hey, oh yeah, there's me. I'm doing that right from time to time. Yeah. It can't always be, oh, there's me. I'm not doing that right from time to time. So you have to have a good mix and all that stuff. But you want to catch them doing things right where they're playing hard for each other.
Yeah. I know we're getting close to the end here, and we'll let you go soon. But I want to ask you about family. Obviously, they're sitting front row center here tonight. Your wife and 3 kids. We talk so much about time commitment, and I know there is a big one, especially when it comes to coaching. How much pride do you have though seeing them sit there, obviously sharing this moment, but just it takes more than one person to be in the position you're.
Yeah, man, you hit it right on the head. My wife is my best friend, and honestly, you can't do this job without the support of a good family. And I have that. My kids have been really good, and there's certain situations where they don't want to move. Unfortunately, that in this profession, it happens at times, but they're like, yeah, let's go, Dad. We're good. So the support and love that you get from them is the most important thing for me. Like everybody's got different situations, but mine is about my family, and I wouldn't be able to do this job if I didn't have them with me. And I know that without a shadow of a doubt, that they are the most important people to me. And without, as I said, their support and kind of coming with me on this journey, none of this is possible. So they make it easy for me. And then again, there's nights where you don't go home very happy, and sometimes they see it and they feel the brunt of it. But they're such good kids. Like, my kids are rock stars, and I'm so very proud of them. And I think the lessons that they've learned along the way with having to move, it's made them stronger too, which is something my wife and I are very proud of.
Sure.
Speaking of family, like a good reporter, I was making sure I did my research before we started this interview. Boy. But no, I was just reminded of in 2020, the trick shot for Snowy that you did, the little pancake flip behind the back. So I, believe it or not, 3 years later, never got a chance to ask you, so I'm going to ask you now. How many takes
There was a lot of takes. And, you know, even those pancakes, because they were breaking. Like, after a while, I'd flip the same one, and then we surround them, like, with like that clear saran wrap to try to keep them together, because my wife was like, I'm not making any more of these things. So it took a while, and then kids would start moving the plate to try to catch it, and it would miss. But glad we finally got one, and we're like, that's good enough. We're done.
There you go.
But it was a lot of fun to do at that time. It made for an enjoyable day.
There you go. Flames fans' new head coach, dedicated.
Yeah,
clearly.
exactly. Stuck with it. We're going to give
I'd
up.
love to hear it.
Listen, we appreciate all the time, and I hope for many conversations over the next little while. I know you're excited to get going, but you must have a couple of ball diamonds to hit here, though, between now and then, too, though, don't you? Or
that was last year. My son now, he's all focused on the hockey side of things now. So he's got a workout program that he's doing. He loves it. And unfortunately for my wife and I, we don't get to sit at the ballpark anymore, but I have a feeling that might come back next year.
Yeah, that's always fun for mom and dad, too. The ball diamonds are
For
great.
sure.
Congratulations, Husk. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Wish you guys all the best, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.